Frank. What's the weirdest thing you've ever saw in here?
Let me ask you a question, kid. Did you see that movie, Night of the Living Dead?
Hey, we gonna party tonight or what?
Yeah, we are gonna party.
Well, where are we gonna party?
I don't know, somewhere.
Hey, we could go to the park.
Oh, no, we can't. The cops said they'd shoot us if we go back to the park. Yeah, and I ain't in no mood to go tonight.
I like death.
Greetings, ghouls, and welcome to minute 17 of Do You Want to Party, a Movies by Minute podcast of the 1985 groundbreaking horror classic, The Return of the Living Dead. I'm your host, Troy, and my guest host this week, making his third appearance with only from his second one only being a week ago. However, much more time has passed between the recordings and all that sort of thing, but we'll get into that later. And this is
Mitchell and Troy. Don't break down the facade of weekly recordings.
Oh, I've been doing that all along because I'm so recording these out of so much order that like I recorded I think I recorded your first one before the one that I recorded after you, and like it was just like everything's all out of order. I mean, the good thing is I know the movie well enough that at the beginning, before it starts to get all hectic, that I can keep track of everything. So it's like and the other part is reminding myself like, ooh, I did mention this in this episode, but I haven't recorded it yet, so I have to remember to bring that point up in the previous episode that I haven't recorded yet. So
You don't want the audience to know how the sausage is made. What? You mean that they film movies out of order and sometimes the actors aren't familiar with what's actually going to happen on screen?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
That's wild.
I know. But however, this movie is one of those that goes against that point because for the most part, from get-go, the movie is filmed in chronological order.
Ooh, I did not know that. That's
interesting. I think the only thing that was shot out of order was the graveyard sequence because it was a completely different locale from where the warehouse and the crematorium was, and the Colonel's house. That was they shot the Colonel's house stuff first, and
that
then
makes sense.
So
I don't know if you would know this offhand.
What is that?
But I did read that.
Good for you, Mitch. It's so glad that you're able to like work on that sort of hindrance that you've had all your life. But now that you're reading, I'm so happy for you.
My attention span is becoming a little more focused, but
okay.
I still like. Sorry, I was looking at my other monitor. So there's something I read, which I don't know how accurate it is.
All right.
But one of the punks apparently had a jacket on. I can't remember what the actual writing on it, but it was something that's not safe for television.
Yep.
So they actually re-recorded or they did some kind of editing to make a safe for television jacket and a not safe for television jacket.
Freddy's jacket, once he starts wearing it after he's when Tina and the group meet up with them in the mortuary, the jacket that he puts on because he's cold actually has the word fuck you written on the back. So when they were filming it, they realized that it showed up on screen quite a bit, and if they wanted to have a television edit of the movie, they actually went back and re-recorded all the single shots of Freddy with the jacket, and they altered the words on the back of the jacket to say television edit.
I love the continuing, like, this has come up a couple of times in conversations, but the meta-ness of this film and have the television safe.
Yeah.
But now I can actually, within contemporary, seeing someone wear a jacket like that just to kind of poke fun.
Exactly.
And I'm like, shit, I kind of want that jacket now.
To do a Freddy cosplay with the television edit jacket would be fantastic.
Oh,
yeah,
that's good. That's a goal for next year's Fan Expo or something.
There you go. That'd be neat. Yeah.
Our audience, if you can make when you do a cosplay for Comic-Con or wherever your local fan, Dragon Con, and post it somewhere and tag us, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, that would be really great. That would be really great. Yeah.
The most nichest of cosplays, but
if you know,
the 5 people who get it, you get a fist bump.
Exactly. All right, so we're going to get into this minute, which is minute 17, like I said, and it begins with, Christ, I never smelled anything like that before, and ends with figuring out that sound. So we start off with Frank using Chekhov's hanging chain to support himself as Freddy finally stumbles forward towards him. Now, I want you to note that the camera zoom out as Freddy delivers his lines of "Christ had never spelt anything like that," and I think I'm going to be sick. The camera is casually pulls back from a close cropped shot of James Karen. It then pulls back to reveal the room around him. If it were a more modern movie, it definitely would be like a digital zoom. But in 1985, it could have been done. If they had done it after the effect, it would have gotten a really grainy sort of, because they would have had to do an actual physical zoom from an actual print to pull that sort of shot off. Plus, as soon as Frank rushes off to vomit under the stairs, there's no evidence that this is being anything other than a one long take. Which is this shot has actually started at 15 and 50 seconds from the previous minute and actually continues until 16:22 of this minute itself. So it's kind of neat to see like an over like almost 32-second shot of this that not only has a physical zoom, but it's a tracking shot and a panning shot and all that all in one shot, which is fantastic to see.
Yeah, you only have like a few seconds of the pullback and
Mhm.
then a very slight, like maybe like
Yep.
30-degree turn or something like
Yeah.
that. Like
Yeah.
a very small turn.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just stationary. I know it was, I don't think it was trying to do like security camera kind of thing, watching our protagonist, but it has that kind of viewpoint of it,
Yes,
where it's just
exactly.
sitting,
Exactly.
someone hit the little right arrow button just to see where the person went, and that was it.
Yeah. But again, for what it is, like a 1985,
Hmm.
again, we keep going back to a low budget movie that they have such a fantastic shot.
Yeah.
All right, so just take note of that zoom for later on in the episode. Okay, so then Freddy joins Frank again, and after a beat, Frank begins being followed by Freddy shambling up the stairs for about 3 steps. All right, then we cut to the warehouse main floor. The both men step out of the fake stairwell because we know that that doorway does not lead to any stairs into the basement because it's a completely separate stage. Frank's coughing into his handkerchief. Freddy is also coughing. Both men are looking very, very sweaty. Frank most definitely because of you can see the stains of his blue dress shirt just completely like he's soaked through, and Freddy's very shiny. He's
Yeah.
very baby oiled up sort of thing, which is a great look.
The lacking of sleeves kind of make it harder to tell on him. You do see some like around where his collar
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
But the blue dress shirt,
yeah,
it shows
definitely. Yeah,
everything.
it shows everything. Yeah,
Like
yeah.
is it both his sides underneath his armpits, the whole part under his neck. It is a poor salesman who's just trying to get his last vacuum cleaner sale, and it's just not going right. And poor
Exactly.
old
Yeah,
Gil
yeah,
kind of look.
yeah. Gil, nice. Yes, good reference. But also you can tell that they're starting to get sickly because their faces are slightly pale. And if you look closely, their hands are actually getting a little bit on the palish side compared to the rest of their arms. Their hands
Oh
seem to be
yes.
slightly tinted, like, yeah. It's a very subtle thing. And if you're not, obviously, if you're not studying it minute by minute, they move through the scene and you don't, and it goes on and all that sort of thing. But in this particular sequence, when they come out and they're still like standing there, you can tell that their hands, especially around the knuckles on Freddy's hand, you can see that is definitely getting paler and all that sort of thing, which
I
is
was just thinking, like, I have the clip up, and I'm
Mhm.
seeing him sitting on the open box,
Mhm.
and as he's sitting on it, holding his stomach, that's
Yeah.
probably like the best like
Yeah.
cell or shot that you can tell the
Mhm.
whiteness is so drastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, what's really good about that, like this, I'm a few seconds ahead of you, I
Yeah. Yeah.
think.
No, no, that's okay.
Um, the scene where he's sitting on it, and just in the background to the far right of the scene. It's kind of slightly obstructed by the door, but you have the skeletal and circulatory system of a corpse.
Yep.
So there's your like subtle foreshadowing of what they will become soon later.
Hmm.
I completely missed that diagram the first time I watched it.
Right.
Um, Also, there's also a sign for chicken, but I don't think that's
Yeah,
most
I have
relevant,
not.
but
Yeah, I have not been able to
yeah,
figure out what the chicken is. Like in an earlier, when
yeah.
we first were introduced to
Oh, it's chicken pox. It's a
it is chicken
quarantine for
pox,
chicken pox.
quarantine for chicken pox. Yeah. I spent the first couple of minutes describing that whole entire wall where it has all the deliveries and all that sort of thing,
Oh,
and tried to
yes.
break down as much of what the actual signs say all over the place, including like the handwritten signs and whatnot. As they again enter into the main floor of the warehouse, Frank claims that they shouldn't inform Bert about the situation. Freddie mentions still having the smell in his nose, or else it's on everything. Frank then grabs some deodorant that he calls and sprays it around. Now, obviously, this is the product placement, which is fantastic. As Freddie dons his cap and sits down on the open crate containing the what should have been two AFPTs, which is two adult females with perfect teeth skeletons. So we got this product placement of the Lysol container, which we'll get more into that because it gets brought up in the commentary track by Dan O'Bannon himself. So we don't need to. What?
No,
You
sorry, I was waiting for you to finish.
go?
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. What do you want to say?
I was just saying, like, I am such a victim of capitalism that when I heard the Lysol spray, I didn't even think of the brand. I just thought of like Q-tip and that
Kleenex
kind of
and yeah, yeah,
Kleenex.
exactly, yeah,
That is
exactly, yeah.
just oh, it's just something
It's a
for
Lysol
deodorant to
spray.
go to
Yeah,
spray.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
But I don't I am not up on my linguistic history and to see if the not linguistic etymology, is that the right more accurate term?
I believe if well, keep going and I'll tell you if that's what you're talking about.
Well, etymology is like study of words and language and origins and stuff. So I don't
Yeah,
know
no,
if
I think that
it's
applies. I think that would apply.
so I don't know when the common vernacular switched over to the name brand when that took
Right.
over.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% if it's like the 80s when that happened, but with I
You know,
don't
it
know that
roughly
one.
probably would have been around that time because that's when, especially when products became more focalized in stuff
Hmm.
like pop culture and all that. Prior to the 80s, if you had some sort of product placement, there was no monetary devotion to be given
Hmm.
for the item to be there. It just happened to be in that particular sequence, or they would have been asked for it to be removed because of we don't want our brand associated with this style of movie. But in the 80s it became a lot more prevalent because
Hmm.
more of the central audience was going to see it, and the central audience became those families that if they saw a product, it was, and again, subliminal messaging and all that sort of thing and whatnot. So products would pay for their items to be put into movies that they knew were going to be shown at a big time. And then
Hmm.
also the marketing campaigns of movies in the 80s was huge. Television marketing tie-ins with the movies and products within them and all that. So that's definitely, yes, definitely the mid to late 80s is definitely when it was most provident in the like the foreground of a lot of the movies. Yeah.
Now I don't know. I am a paper not proponent, advocate of like mise-en-scène, especially within like animation, where everything
Mhm.
on screen has a purpose and it was purposely chosen for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, right when he
Especially in
started,
animation.
especially animation, that's like
Yeah.
always the best example because they literally have to craft everything.
Hmm.
In live action, there's a little more wiggle room and uncertainty.
Yeah.
However, seeing him hold the Lysol directly towards the camera in the way where I can actually read the name
You could,
brand,
yeah, you could totally,
and
yeah, yeah.
it definitely has that. I can't remember what movie it is, but there's a movie with like a pop can. I don't know if I
Hmm.
remember if it's Pepsi or Coke. And there's like three pop cans, and it was all different angles of the one can, so that
Right.
the audience can see every side of the can, so they can recognize it no matter what.
Nice,
And
nice.
granted, if I want to be benefit the doubt person, the nozzle is facing a certain way, but then again, nozzles, you can turn them. So it
Yeah.
is definitely
Yeah.
pointed in the way to have maximum local ability.
Well, I think though, to go back to that point, I think at the time when you look at a spray can at the top, they have that little black dash that you're supposed to line the nozzle up with to get the best directional spray. I think that at the time Lysol was printed like that so that you would have to hold it in
Face
that
out.
position and face out, that it would be face out sort of thing. So it
Yeah.
just happened to be a coincidence that it worked out like
The coffee mug thing where you hold it on a certain way. And you have the
exactly. And
local
yeah,
facing
exactly,
out.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. All right, so back to this movie.
It's still tied in. This is
Yeah.
just
Oh yeah.
the future of this film that maybe not it specifically birthed, but it had a a contributing factor of it.
Mm-hmm. So as both still continue coughing, and as Frank sprays the Lysol, Freddy is the first to hear the distressing sound, making him stand to his feet again. While he inquires about the sound, Frank stops his prolonged time of spraying because he was just going to town with that aerosol can because, you know what, who cares about the environment at this time? His prolonged time of spraying the aerosol can's contents to try and ascertain the noise, but before he can complete his diagnostical response, the minute ends. So yeah, so that's where we wrap up that particular minute. Now, again, like you had mentioned earlier, not a lot happens, but it is one of those critical setups. This is your we just introduced all the kids in the cemetery. We now have unknown as like gas has leaked out. Our heroes, our main characters have, I guess, sort of survived the aftermath, and now we're just continuing on.
And we have the ticking clock element because
Yes.
this isn't the first zombie film, and it's the oh no, we had a scene of this person got bit, but they're covering it with their sleeve.
Yes,
moment.
exactly. Yes, one of those dick moves in a zombie movie. Like,
but they haven't been bitten, so it's a little
yeah,
more like, the
yeah.
heck was that? Of course, the audience knows, but I'm blanking on the terminology right now of when the audience
knows something that the characters do not. I was hoping you would figure it out because I know what the phrasing is. I know
it's
what
a
phrasing you're trying to say.
Shakespearean like
Yeah.
phrase. I will be Googling it. I will come up back to that.
Okay.
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 It's called dramatic irony. That's
Dramatic
the
irony. Okay.
generic kind of definition for it.
Gotcha.
The Google definition is dramatic irony occurs when the audience knows something the characters don't, and the miscommunication in the play leads to the tragic end of the feud. This quote is directly about Romeo and Juliet.
Okay.
But that's allegedly kind of the origins of it.
Okay, cool. Over on the commentary track with director, writer Dan O'Bannon and production designer William Stout. William Stout mentions that Jimmy, again, everyone calls James Cairn Jimmy in almost anything that I've seen. Whenever any of the actors talk about James Cairn, they always call him Jimmy, which is, I think, a very endearing term. He was so nice that he brought Jason Robards to the set. Dan O'Bannon mentions he was very gracious, Robards was. This is a quote from Dan O'Bannon. He then goes on to mention the fact that he had someone to chat with off camera allowed him to relax. Now, for those of you that don't know, Jason Robards is another one of those seasoned veteran actors, like the same as like James Cairn and all that sort of thing. Not to go into much of his career and all that sort of thing, but he's one of those what they call a triple crown of acting. He's earned competitive wins for 2 Academy Awards, a Tony Award, and an Emmy Award. He's if you go to his IMDb, his 4 top known movies are the 1976 All the President's Men, 1999's Magnolia, 1968's Once Upon a Time in the West, and 1989's Parenthood. So All the President's Men also starred James Cameron. And the both actors also worked together in the 1980 TV movie FDR: The Last Years. Now, on a personal basis, um, the first movie that I can remember seeing Jason Robards in was 1983's Something Wicked This Way Comes. That sort of horror family film that Disney put out in 1983, which my parents took me to go see and all that sort of thing, which might have been a little bit of a catalyst of me trying to get more into and join the spookier sort of fare. Plus another thing about that particular year, the year that this movie was being filmed in 1983, Jason Robards not only starred in Something Wicked This Way Comes, but he also starred in what was it? Max Dugan Returns, in which he played the titular character Max Dugan, and then the TV movie Event the Day After, the one where they document a fictitious nuclear war in the States. So back
I'm
to
still
the
blown away he was in All President's Men because it's like one of my favorites, and I'm like,
oh, you don't
oh my God, yes. And I'm like,
yeah.
Google, like looking at Google Images right now, and I'm like, how
Yeah.
did I not make that connection?
Mhm.
And my mind didn't
James
connect.
Karen or James Karen or
Robards.
Jason Robards. Yes, yeah. Yeah, no, it's a prolific acting career, like doing everything
Yeah.
from stage to screen to TV. Yeah, it was like the fantastic actor. Yeah.
He almost EGOT it there, and I'm like,
Yes,
I think
exactly.
he was
Yeah.
missing the Tony, I think.
No, he got the Tony. Yeah. He just
What was
didn't
he?
have he
He had an
had
Oscar, a Tony,
an Oscar, a Tony, and
an Emmy,
an Emmy, yes. Yeah, so there was no Grammy.
Grammy.
Yeah, no music.
Right. Okay, makes sense.
The G in EGOT.
EGOT.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not, that's the part I forgot. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah. Which, according to the article that I read, only 24 actors whenever the article was written, had achieved that 3 crown sort of status, which, I mean, that sounds like something I'd like to go back and study too. That might actually be an interesting sort of series to try and follow up. Yeah.
I think I remember reading recently there's only there's 2 double EGOTs. And that's like a very rare, only 2 people have ever gotten
Right.
that.
Yeah.
So it's like the Grammy and the Tonys are kind of like the trickier ones, I suspect, to have that in conjunction with.
Yeah.
Usually the separation of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So back to the movie. Once Frank and Freddy are on the main floor, Dan O'Bannon says that this is the point of how one deals with clearing out a dreadful smell of the toxic gas and the corpse smell. So from a quote, "Of course, you use Lysol spray." He mentions that they went to the company to get permission to use their product, and they said fine because they like the idea of their product being able to kill any conceivable odor, no matter how horrible. So that's where we get to the end of that particular minute of the commentary track. Okay, so according to the script, which is written by Dan O'Bannon, and this is the revision from October 1983, and it's based on the story and screenplay by John Russo, Rudy Rickey, and Russell Steiner. So the script at this point picks up where Frank closes the lid of the now empty canister. We're, again, still down in the basement and all that. So Freddy goes, "What time is it?" Frank looks at his watch. 7 o'clock. Freddy, "Christ." Looking pale and waxy, they make their way towards the cellar stairs. Freddy continued, "Christ, I've never smelled anything like that in my life. I'm sick." Then interior warehouse night. They come slowly upstairs. They walk through the darkened warehouse. Frank spots a freezer door standing slightly open. He closes it and latches it. They go to sit down at their desks. Frank, "I don't guess we ought to tell Bert about this. Makes us look like we're stupid or something." Freddy, "I can still smell that stuff. It must be in my nose. Either that or it's all over everything." Frank, "Maybe I better spray some deodorant around here." Frank goes and roots in the store of medical supplies and comes with a giant can of Lysol. So even in the script, they called it Lysol. He starts to walk around, spraying it everywhere. Suddenly, from out of the darkness comes a loud yip, followed by a crash. Frank spins around and Freddy jumps to his feet. Frank, "What was that?" So that's pretty much where we end the movie. And obviously we've changed the lines around a little bit and some extra stuff that gets left out. So yeah, because in the script, the script version, to catch everybody up on the reveal that Freddie was going to meet Tina after work to go out dancing at a particular time, and it's now getting close to that time as looking at the watches and all that sort of thing. All right, now as we compare this minute to the actual rough cut of it, which is the extended version that obviously is a very working copy of the movie. It includes pretty much all the sequences that they filmed and then eventually gets dwindled down to what we finally have in the final film. Now, this particular minute of the movie actually takes place during the rough cut between minute 18 and 16 seconds to minute 19 and 24 seconds. So according to this version of the movie, the zoom out while Frank hangs on the chains is actually part of the shot. The rough cut has the actual zoom and whatnot in it, which is kind of cool to go from again, like we talked about, a zoom, track, and shot, and then zoom out to continuously track the actors as they begin to make their way up the stairs. Also, in the final film, that once Frank gets like 3 steps up, they cut to the next shot. But in the rough cut, it shows that James Karen actually walks up to the second set of stairs because it goes up and then turns and then goes up another set of steps. He walks up to the second set of steps and ascending with Tom Matthews close behind him. So the rest of the sequence, once both characters are on the main floor, plays like the final version, except for the fact there is no Foley of the dog in the distance. So the cue of the half dog is both James Matthews and James Matthews is both Tom Matthews and James Karen reacting to nothing. There's not
Does he have his own band? A self-named one?
Exactly. Yes. All right. So that pretty much wraps up what I have for information and whatnot about this particular minute. So it's a neat thing to see that like it's an orchestrated move. That zoom is orchestrated, and the fact that they sought out Lysol to actually use it, and how Lysol was like, yeah, go ahead, use our product. So yeah.
Because the original one was just a generic reference because they probably didn't know if they were able to get that or not. So they're playing it safe in the original.
Yeah.
But hey, you're a low budget independent film. You gotta get the money where you can.
Right.
It's not on the level of Michael Bay, but I understand why they went that route.
All right. So on that note, we're going to wrap up this particular episode. Thanks, Mitch, for joining me once again for minute 17. And thank every one of my listeners for joining in as well. It's again, where it's nice to see that our audience is slowly but surely growing. So thank you everyone who's now joining in with the party. Again, if we said anything that is any interest to you, or if you think we messed up with some information, or you have something to add, send us a message at planetgeekpod@gmail.com. You can we can carry on the conversation there, or maybe eventually roll it into a future episode. And once again, I want to thank you, Mitch, for joining me.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. I am on Letterboxd at MITULLY. I will have my TIFF Festival reviews up, and hopefully by the time this goes out, I will have seen Rumors and a little, World Leaders Fighting Zombies film. So hopefully it lives up to my expectations.
That's right. That's a Halloween movie, isn't it?
It comes out like October 18th, supposedly.
Yeah, so that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, it has 3 directors. I was looking up as Galen Evan Johnson and Guy Madden. And if you're like a Canadian film nerd, Guy Madden's a big deal, and I'm excited for that.
So technically, it came out according to the calendar. It came out last Friday for this episode to be released. So hopefully you enjoyed it.
Just have to keep an eye out on Letterboxd and find out.
And one final thing before we actually cut to the actual end of this particular episode, I would like to point out to anybody that is listening to this podcast as it actually is released,
Next week's episode of the upcoming Wednesday will be the 30th of October. However, as the next day is the 31st of October being Halloween, there will be a special episode. Actually, let me correct that by saying another episode of the podcast will be releasing. It is not quite a Halloween themed episode, but is a bonus episode because it's Halloween.
All right. So once again, I'm going to say for the third time, thank you everyone for joining me. Thank you, Mitch, for joining me. And the only thing I have left to say is see you next Wednesday.
You've just been listening to a Planet Geek production of Do You Want to Party? A Movies by Minute podcast of the 1985 The Return of the Living Dead. Please be sure to subscribe, download, comment, share, rate, and review. Be sure to follow us on our social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Tumblr, or Letterboxd. Search for Planet Geek Productions. X, former Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky, search for Planet Geek Pod. Or send us an email to planetgeekpod@gmail.com. Our closing music is provided by Night Chill. See the show notes for more details. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and farewell, fiends.
I'm ready.
You are? All right.
I'm ready.
So start off with politics, and then a horror film broke out.
All right. Like all good horror films, it has a deep undercurrent of politics that is slowly bubbling that a lot of the viewers don't realize until they're much older and they rewatch it a third or fourth time. And they're like, hey, wait a second. Maybe Reagan wasn't a good guy.
Keep going on this point. So I watched the Apple TV movie Wolves with Brad Pitt and George Clooney.
Mm-hmm.
There's a sequence at it's actually quite entertaining. Actually, I mean, the two of them work well together, and the fact that at the beginning they don't want to be working together, and then they eventually end up working together, it's just really well done, and it's
nice.
The best way that Brad Pitt and George Clooney interact with each other. But there's a sequence when Brad Pitt is letting George Clooney do all the work, and so he's sitting down and he cracks open a Coke, and they do a close-up of him, and as he turns it, the label is perfectly aligned so that when he sips it back, his fingers do not cover the Coke label on the can, and it's like beautiful product placement. Apple, beautiful product placement.
I admire like the planning, the foresight, and the thinking of it, but part of me is just revulsed by it. But bravo, but also goddamn.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There you go.
Dramatic irony.
Dramatic irony. All right.
Not the it's raining on a wedding day, because that's not irony.
No, that's not irony. That's coincidence.
No. Yeah, that's just kind of good opportunity for photos in the rain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He's like, you have Poltergeist?
Yeah, he's the guy. He's the guy responsible for clearing out the tombstones, but not getting rid of the bodies.
I've never watched Poltergeist.
Are you fucking kidding me? No. Oh shit. I mean, it's the answer. It's the answer to their problem, but it's a pillar film. I know it really doesn't affect the actual outcome. You haven't seen Poltergeist?
I have not seen a lot of movies that everyone has seen. I've seen a lot of the obscure.
You're one of those guys.
Yeah. I grew up watching Kurosawa. I was not growing up watching Raging Bull, Rocky. Yeah. I didn't see Rocky until I was in university, and even then, I only saw like 10 minutes of the movie, and that was it.
Okay. You know what? I would like to see Michael Bay try and pull off a $4 million movie. I mean, in the 80s, I'd like to have seen him try and pull off a $4 million movie and whatnot. Like nowadays, like his salary is.
Oh God, yeah. I think like Pain and Gain is probably one of his lower budget films, and the most of his budget went to paying The Rock.
Yeah,
I'm assuming. I I haven't seen Pain and Gain, but I've heard really like most people I've talked to have said positive things and that it's probably The Rock's best film. I am not the biggest Michael Bay people,
Right.
so I haven't sought it out,
Mhm.
but that might be his more contemporary low budget film as it is.
My interaction with that movie is so hilarious. So when Disney's The Lone Ranger came out, we got dressed up in costume to go see the opening of the movie. I did the Johnny Depp Tonto because it's Johnny Depp, so Troy has to do a Johnny Depp costume, which is a shirtless costume with the beads in the front and painted skin and all that sort of thing. When we came in to go see the ticket, everyone was like thrilled to see us in our costumes and all that, but they're all like, so do you have something else to wear? And I'm like, no, I don't. And like, we can't have you sitting like shirtless in our seats. So they gave me a Pain and Gain tank top that they had as a giveaway that they didn't give all away. So I
Amazing.
had to wear this Pain and Gain tank top to watch the Lone Ranger in, so they would let me sit down in their theaters.
And like I love this because the tank tops don't cover a lot of skin. Like
No,
it's
they don't, but
maybe
I guess it was
50% or
enough.
so or
I
something like
guess
that.
it was enough to cover my torso, and that was it that they didn't care about. But yeah, so I
Yeah,
just thought it was
it's the legal limit of skin, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah. Well, because technically I was basically walking in there with just a pair of pants, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I mean, the hair, the long extended hair only went so far down my back to cover my back, but still it was, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got a Pain and Gain promotional shirt to
it's
wear.
I see this as a total win.
Yeah.
Oh man. Hey, luckily they had that on hand. Otherwise, you're gonna have to like do a quick run to Walmart or
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
In cosplay, of
Yeah.
course.
Oh, of course. Yeah, no, it'd be
Yeah,
great. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh